The night was thick with silence, broken suddenly by a piercing scream that shattered the stillness like glass. In a dimly lit room, an old man collapsed onto the cold floor, his body trembling with the weight of years and regrets. His breath hitched, eyes wide with unspoken fears, as his estranged children stood frozen, their faces masks of shock and guilt. The final letter lay open beside him, the last words from a departed soul, carrying truths no one had dared to speak. The man's voice, barely a whisper, trembled with revelation. "You must understand. Happiness is not what you chase, but what you let go." Outside, the world seemed unaware, yet within these four walls, the past and present collided in a storm of silence and sorrow. The children looked away, afraid to meet the eyes that held a lifetime of broken promises. This was not just a moment of pain, but a fracture in the very fabric of their family's soul. In the quiet aftermath, the eldest daughter, Mei, stepped forward, her voice breaking the thick silence. "Father, why did you never tell us?" Her words carried a blend of anger and desperate longing. The old man's breath hitched again as memories flooded back. The sacrifices, the hidden pain, the love buried beneath years of distance. "I feared you would not understand," he said weakly, "but happiness is not found in possession or pride. It is in acceptance." Mai's eyes glistened with tears as she realized the vast gulf between what they sought and what was truly there all along. This moment marked the fragile beginning of something neither time nor silence could erase. The past, heavy and unforgiving, met the tentative hope of a future still unwritten. Her younger brother Kai stepped closer, shoulders tense, his voice low but sharp. "We lived in your shadow, never knowing the truth you hid." The old man's gaze softened, haunted yet proud. "Truth is a burden and a gift. I carried it alone to protect you." The room seemed to hold its breath as the weight of years settled between them. Kai clenched his fists, the old wounds raw and bleeding beneath the surface, protection that felt like exile. A tear escaped his eye, not just for himself but for the love that had been lost to silence. The distance of years felt suddenly unbearable, and yet, in the fragile space of this confession, there was a faint glimmer of reconciliation. The old man, gathering his last strength, spoke with a voice thick with sorrow and wisdom. "Happiness is not a prize to be won, nor a place to arrive. It is the peace we find when we release our grasp on what binds us: anger, regret." Mei and Kai listened, their anger softening into something more vulnerable. "I have carried pain so you might be free, but freedom comes with understanding." He closed his eyes briefly, a faint smile breaking through his weariness. "True happiness is in letting go." The room held a sacred silence, the kind that marks the end of suffering and the fragile birth of hope. As the night deepened, Mei and Kai sat silently beside their father, the letter clasped tightly in their hands. They felt the weight of years and the fragile thread of new understanding weaving between them. The pain was far from healed, but the door to forgiveness had cracked open. The old man's breathing slowed, a soft finality settling in the room. "Remember," he whispered, "happiness is not what you seek, it is what you become when you stop seeking." Outside, the first light of dawn broke through the curtains, casting a gentle glow on the fractured family, imperfect, broken, yet still connected by love and truth. The story had begun anew, with a hard truth about happiness that no one could ever forget. Mei stood alone by the old oak tree in the garden, the place where she had once found solace as a child. Now the branches seemed heavier, burdened with the weight of years and silence. Her heart ached with a pain she struggled to name, a gnawing regret for the moments lost, the words never spoken. She whispered to the wind, "Why did I turn away when he needed me most?" The memory of her father's distant gaze haunted her, a man broken by choices she never fully understood. Mai's fingers traced the rough bark, grounding herself in the present, even as the past pulled relentlessly at her. This fracture inside her, abandonment mixed with love, was the wound that shaped her. She was caught between the desperate desire to forgive and the sharp sting of betrayal. Her voice cracked with sorrow. "I thought I was protecting myself, but I was only protecting my pain." The garden felt silent and cold, but Mei resolved to face the shadows she had long avoided. Kai wandered through the bustling streets, the noise of the world outside contrasting sharply with the turmoil inside him. Every face he passed seemed like a mirror reflecting his own fractured soul. How can they live so easily, he thought bitterly. His anger was a tempest, fueled by years of feeling unseen and unheard. His mind raced through memories of childhood, the silent dinners, the unspoken rules, the constant shadow of his father's absence. Yet beneath the rage, there was a fragile thread of yearning, a longing for connection, for belonging. Kai stopped briefly, eyes scanning the faces around him, searching for something he couldn't name. Maybe happiness is not just a place or a thing, he mused. Maybe it's the courage to face what we hide inside. His fists unclenched slowly as a new resolve took root. He was tired of running from the pain. It was time to confront it head-on. In the quiet of a small temple, Mei lit incense and knelt, seeking a moment of peace. The fragrant smoke curled upward, carrying her whispered prayers. "Teach me to forgive," she breathed, her voice barely audible over the soft chants around her. The monk nearby watched her with gentle eyes, sensing the storm within. Mei's thoughts drifted to her father's words about happiness, that it was not found in possession or pride, but in letting go. She struggled to believe it, her heart weighed down by years of silence and unmet expectations. But in the stillness of the temple, a faint spark of hope kindled. Maybe this is the first step, she thought, to stop fighting the past and start embracing what remains. The temple bells rang softly, echoing through the room like a promise of renewal. Kai sat alone on a weathered bench overlooking a quiet river, the water reflecting the gray sky above. His mind was a tempest of unresolved emotions, anger, regret, and an aching desire for reconciliation. I blamed him for everything, he confessed silently, but maybe I never tried to understand his pain. The ripples on the water mirrored the turmoil inside, each wave a reminder of the family fractures that ran deep. Kai closed his eyes and breathed deeply, feeling the cool wind brush his face. "To forgive is not to forget," he whispered. "It is to release the hold that pain has on us." The moment was fragile, but it marked a turning point, the beginning of his journey toward healing, where the past could no longer chain him, and happiness might just be within reach. Back in the family home, Mei and Kai sat together in the quiet, the letter from their father resting between them like a fragile bridge. Neither spoke at first. The weight of unspoken emotions filled the room. Finally, Mei reached out, placing her hand over Kai's. "We both carry this pain," she said softly. "But maybe we don't have to carry it alone anymore." Kai nodded slowly, a tentative smile breaking through his guarded expression. "I want to try," he replied, "to understand. To forgive." The old wounds were still fresh, the road ahead uncertain, but for the first time, they felt a flicker of connection, a shared hope that happiness could grow not from perfection, but from acceptance and love. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the quiet promise of a new beginning. The fragile peace between Mei and Kai was soon tested as old wounds resurfaced. At a family gathering, voices rose in heated whispers, shadows of past betrayals flickering in every glance. Mei confronted Kai quietly. "You never told me what you really felt about father's choices." Kai's jaw tightened. "Because you were always the one trying to hold us together, pretending everything was fine." Their exchange cracked the surface, exposing a deeper fissure of blame and resentment. Outside, neighbors watched with quiet judgment, the weight of family secrets spilling beyond the walls. As tensions simmered, the past collided violently with the present, a collision that threatened to undo the fragile thread of understanding they had just begun to weave. Kai stormed out into the cold night, the sharp sting of betrayal burning inside him. His breath formed clouds in the frosty air as he walked the empty streets, replaying every harsh word exchanged. The silence around him felt deafening, but the storm within was louder. Memories of his father's absence and his mother's whispered regrets fueling his fury. "They never saw me," Kai thought bitterly, "only the mistakes I made." The cold bit at his skin, but deeper wounds burned unchecked. Beneath his anger a fragile hope flickered, a need to be seen to matter. Yet the walls he had built were thick, and for now, the only company he found was in his own relentless thoughts. Meanwhile, Mei retreated to the quiet of the old family shrine, seeking solace among ancestral photos and flickering candles. Her fingers traced the worn edges of her father's portrait, the weight of unspoken expectations pressing down on her. "Why did we stay silent so long?" she whispered, voice thick with regret. The ghosts of their past whispered back, accusing and forgiving all at once. Mei wrestled with the sharp contrast between love and anger, forgiveness and resentment. "I am tired of hiding," she confessed silently. "But how do you face a past that refuses to let go?" The shrine's warm glow surrounded her like a fragile sanctuary, but within, a storm of conflicting emotions raged, threatening to tear her apart. The next day, a whispered secret reached Mei's ears. A revelation about their father's past she had never known. "He was not the man we believed," a distant relative murmured. Doubt and confusion churned inside her as she pieced together fragments of stories, sacrifices masked as silence, mistakes hidden behind pride. Was he trying to protect us, or was he running from himself? Mei grappled with the tangled web of truth and lies. Her heart pounded as she realized the family she thought she knew was more fractured than she had imagined. The discovery shattered old beliefs and opened a new abyss of questions. Mei's voice trembled with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "What else have you kept from us?" The past shadows deepened, threatening to engulf the fragile hope they had fought to hold. Kai returned home later that evening, the chill of the night still clinging to his skin. He found Mei sitting silently by the window, eyes distant and haunted. Without words, they shared the unspoken burden of their discoveries and doubts. The silence between them was heavy but real, a raw connection born of shared pain. Kai finally broke the quiet, voice low and strained. "Maybe the family we thought we lost was never really there." Mei nodded slowly. "Or maybe it was always waiting for us to find it again." The night wrapped around them like a protective cloak, holding the fragile promise of reconciliation and the painful journey ahead. Their wounds were raw, but beneath them lay the fragile seeds of healing and understanding, waiting to take root. Mei sat in stunned silence as the truth unfolded before her like a fragile scroll of secrets. The relative's whispered confession echoed in her mind. "Your father, he was not your father by blood." The words struck like thunder, shaking the very foundation of her identity. The man she had revered, resented and mourned was a guardian, a protector who had taken another's place. Memories twisted and turned in her mind, moments of tenderness, anger, and silence now cast in a new, painful light. "So much of my life has been built on a lie," she thought, heart aching with betrayal and disbelief. Yet beneath the shock was a strange relief, answers to questions that had haunted her. Mei grappled with the complexity of love and loyalty, realizing that family was more than blood. But the revelation tore open wounds too deep to ignore. Kai's world shattered further as he confronted an old family friend who revealed the truth behind the accident that had haunted their family. "It wasn't a random tragedy," the man said gravely. "It was caused by your father's mistake." Kai felt the air leave his lungs, his fists trembling. The man's eyes were steady, not unkind, but unyielding. He carried the blame alone, but the secret poisoned everything. The years of silence and resentment suddenly made bitter sense. Kai's anger flared, not just at his father, but at the cruel weight of secrets kept in the name of protection. "Why did he hide this from us?" Kai demanded, voice breaking. The revelation cast a harsh new light on his father's fall from grace, forcing Kai to question everything he thought he knew about love, sacrifice, and betrayal. Back at home, Mei and Kai faced each other with new eyes, the hidden truths between them no longer whispers but roaring storms. Mei's voice was a fragile thread. "He was never really our father, but he loved us like one." Kai's reply was quieter, but no less pained, and he carried the weight of a mistake that broke him. The revelation dissolved the anger, but deepened their sorrow. They stood on the edge of grief and forgiveness, unsure which path to take. "What do we do now?" Mei asked, tears tracing silent paths down her cheeks. Kai reached out, voice steady despite the turmoil. "We carry his truth, not the lie, not the silence." Together they began to untangle the complex web of love and loss, betrayal and loyalty, a truth harsh yet strangely freeing. The community's judgment was swift and unforgiving as the news spread. Old friends whispered, neighbors cast wary glances, and family secrets spilled into harsh daylight. Mei felt the sting of isolation. They see us as broken, as stained by the past. Yet within her, a quiet resolve grew. If happiness is found in letting go, then we must first let go of their expectations. Kai stood beside her, unyielding. We are more than their judgments. Together, they faced the harsh glare of society, with the fragile armor of truth and newfound courage. The hidden betrayals no longer defined them. Instead, they became the seedbed for strength. It was a painful reckoning, but also the birth of a silent revolution, one of acceptance, resilience, and the hard-won path to peace. In the quiet of the evening, Mei and Kai returned to the letter, their father's final gift and burden. They read the words aloud, voice steady but heavy with meaning. Happiness is not in the certainty of blood, but in the acceptance of truth. In forgiveness we find freedom. The weight of that truth settled over them, painful and pure. They understood now that happiness was not a prize or destination, but a fragile daily choice. As the last candle flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls, Mei whispered, "Maybe this is the hardest truth of all." Kai nodded, "But it's the only one that can set us free." Together, they closed the letter, a chapter ended, and the beginning of something real, a journey toward healing, grounded in love, and the hard truths that shape us. The air was thick with tension as Mei and Kai confronted their father one last time, not in anger but in desperate need for truth. The old man, frail and weary, looked up with eyes that held decades of sorrow and regret. "I failed you both," he confessed quietly, not as a father by blood, but as a man burdened by fear and silence. His voice cracked with the weight of unspoken confessions. "I thought hiding the truth would protect you. Instead, it imprisoned us all." Tears welled in Mai's eyes as she whispered, "We needed you to be real, not perfect." Kai's voice was steady but raw. "It's time we stop running from pain and face it, together." In this final reckoning, love and betrayal collided in fragile harmony, shaking the foundation of their fractured family and forcing them to confront their deepest wounds. The old man's confession spilled out like a flood, years of regrets, sacrifices, and silent suffering. "I carried a secret that broke me," he said, voice trembling. "The accident was my fault. I took the blame so you could live free of shame." Kai's hands clenched into fists, the rawness of betrayal fresh and fierce. Mei reached out, placing a gentle hand on their father's trembling one. "We are not here to blame anymore, but to understand." The room seemed to breathe, with the weight of forgiveness just beyond reach. The reckoning was not just a moment of revelation, but the first step toward healing, a fragile, painful act of courage that could either bind them or tear them apart forever. Kai struggled with the storm inside, the ache of years spent in silence and anger. "How do I forgive the man who hid everything?" he asked, voice breaking. Mai's eyes shone with quiet strength. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to carry less pain. They looked at their father not as a distant figure, but as a flawed human, a man who loved imperfectly. The reckoning unfolded, not with grand gestures, but with whispered truths and shared tears. It was a reckoning that bruised and healed, a reckoning that fractured and mended. In that fragile space, the family found a new kind of connection, born from the hardest truths and the willingness to face them together. The room grew still as the old man shared his final wish, not for forgiveness but for understanding. "If I could undo the past, I would," he said, voice barely a whisper. "But I ask you to live with compassion, for me, for yourselves, and for what we lost." Mei reached for her father's hand, a gesture of fragile reconciliation. Kai nodded slowly, the hardness in his heart softening. We cannot change what happened, but we can choose how we carry it. The emotional reckoning did not erase pain but transformed it into empathy, acceptance, and the possibility of peace. It was a moment both wrenching and beautiful, a testament to the complexity of love and the resilience of the human spirit. As the night deepened, the family sat together in quiet reflection, the heavy burden of years momentarily lifted. Mai whispered, "Maybe happiness is not a place, but a choice. To forgive, to accept, to love despite everything." Kai smiled faintly, the first genuine warmth in a long time. "We begin again, imperfect, broken, but together." The old man's eyes closed in peaceful surrender, his final breath a release of pain and regret. Outside, the world continued unaware, but within that small room, a hard truth about happiness had been faced, raw, painful, and real. It was the reckoning that wounded, healed, and finally set them free. The days that followed felt like walking through a fragile fog, uncertain, soft, yet filled with quiet revelations. Mei and Kai found themselves revisiting old memories, not to relive pain, but to understand their place in the story. "We cannot change the past," Mei said one morning, voice steady, "but we can decide how it shapes us." Kai nodded, eyes reflecting a calm resolve. They began to see their father, not just as a man who had failed them, but as someone who bore his own unbearable burdens. The lesson unfolded gently. Happiness was not a prize to claim, but a path to walk, one paved with acceptance, forgiveness, and the courage to keep moving forward despite scars. It was a quiet victory born from pain, an earned peace that shimmered beneath the surface of their fragile new life. Mai took to tending the small garden their father loved, each plant a symbol of growth and resilience. As she knelt in the soil, planting new seeds, she thought of the hard truths they had unearthed, painful, raw, yet fertile with possibility. "Happiness," she murmured, "is like this garden. It needs care, patience, and the willingness to let go of what no longer serves." The simple acts of nurturing and tending became a meditation, a daily reminder that healing was a process, not a destination. With each new sprout, Mei felt the weight of the past lighten, replaced by a cautious hope that life could still bloom despite broken roots. Kai found solace in quiet moments by the river, where he had once wrestled with anger. Now, the flowing water seemed to carry away old pain, leaving space for calm and clarity. "I used to believe happiness was out of reach," he reflected aloud. "But it's always been here, in acceptance, in letting go." The river's steady rhythm mirrored his own slow transformation. With every breath, Kai released a little more of the past's grip, embracing the uncertain but hopeful future. It was not a triumph over tragedy, but a peaceful coexistence, a hard lesson learned in humility and grace. Together, Mei and Kai began rebuilding not just their family bonds, but their own lives. Conversations once too painful to face became bridges of understanding. "We are not defined by our wounds," Mei said during one shared meal, "but by how we heal from them." Kai smiled, feeling the truth in her words. They learned that happiness was not the absence of hardship, but the presence of resilience and compassion. The hard truths they uncovered did not diminish love. They deepened it. In their shared vulnerability, they discovered strength, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to grow through suffering and find light even in the darkest places. As the sun set on their journey, Mei and Kai stood once more beneath the old oak tree, the place where their pain had first surfaced. The branches stretched wide, steady, and unyielding, a symbol of endurance. "This tree has weathered many storms," Mei said softly, "and so have we." Kai nodded. "Happiness isn't a place we find, but a place we create, from truth, forgiveness, and love." They embraced the complexity of their story, understanding that happiness was a delicate balance of holding on and letting go. The hard truth had taught them that peace was not a gift handed down, but a choice made every day. Together, they walked forward, carrying the lessons of the past lightly, with open hearts ready for whatever came next. The evening air was still and soft as Mei and Kai sat side by side, watching the slow dance of fireflies in the garden. Words were no longer needed. Their silence spoke of journeys endured and lessons learned. Mai finally broke the quiet, voice gentle and wise. Some wounds stay quiet until they raise children of their own. Kai nodded, feeling the truth settle deep inside him. The past was a shadow that would always linger, but it no longer held them captive. In that shared moment, they understood that happiness was not about erasing pain, but embracing it, letting it shape who they were and who they would become. The night wrapped around them like a whispered promise, a sacred space where love and truth intertwined forever. Mai's thoughts drifted to the future, fragile but hopeful. "Sometimes the only way to forgive your father," she whispered, "is to become one." The weight of that truth settled with surprising lightness. She realized forgiveness was not a single act, but a path, one that required strength, compassion, and the courage to face one's own flaws. Kai's smile was small but genuine, a reflection of the resilience they had nurtured together. They had faced betrayal, pain, and silence. Yet here they were, choosing love and hope. The hard truth about happiness was not a destination, but a lifelong journey, a continuous act of becoming, healing, and growing beyond the shadows of the past. Kai held an old photograph in his hands, a faded image of a family once broken, now slowly mending. "Our story is not one of perfect happiness," he said quietly, "but of hard truths met and overcome." The cracks and scars in their history had given way to new understanding and unexpected grace. Kai felt a deep gratitude for the journey, painful as it was, that had brought him here. Happiness, he mused, is like the river, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, always moving forward. In that moment, he embraced the uncertainty of life with open arms, knowing that the strength to endure and forgive was the greatest gift they could give themselves and each other. The garden around them flourished, a living testament to resilience and renewal. Mai knelt among the blooming flowers, her fingers brushing the petals gently. "Life teaches us that even the hardest soil can birth the most beautiful blossoms," she said softly. Kai joined her, and together they tended the earth, not to erase the past, but to honor it. The lessons of pain and love were etched deeply within them, a legacy not of perfection, but of courage and grace. In the quiet strength of their shared journey, they found a profound peace, a gentle wisdom that whispered across the seasons, reminding them always that happiness grows in the soil of acceptance and truth. As twilight faded into night, a soft breeze carried a final whisper through the trees, a truth passed down through generations, simple and profound. Happiness is not found in holding on, but in learning to let go. Mei and Kai stood together beneath the ancient oak, feeling the weight of those words settle like a gentle promise. Their journey had been hard, marked by pain and revelation, but it had led them here, to a place of quiet strength and unshakable love. The story of their family was not a tale of perfect joy, but of enduring grace. And in that truth, they found freedom, peace, and the courage to face whatever dawn might bring.